Welcome to On the Edge with April Mahoney Brains. Here, this is the spot where the conversation is pointed, the guests are sharp, and the responses are never dull. Welcome home, Brains. There's only one requirement to hang out on the edge, is that you open your big brain and close your small mind. Did you bring your thinking caps? It's time to put them on, because the conversation starts now. Don't get lost in it though. You have to promote it, and you have to let people know where you're located, because so many people get lost in the pages of that.
So true. Yeah.
They get lost in the
Yeah.
pages of it, and it can just smother you actually. But you will not be smothered here, because you are now on the edge with April Mahoney. Brains, I want you to welcome our guest today, Amy Charland. From the East Coast. I'm on the West Coast. What is the weather there like in Minnesota?
In Minnesota, it is cold and rainy, but it could be worse. There could be snow on the ground. It is no snow. It's like spring-like weather here for the end of March, which is very good for Minnesota.
That is beautiful. I'm not used to that kind of weather here in California. I've never lived in that. I've never shoveled snow. I used to go and ski. Don't do that anymore. I pour the cocktails at the lodge.
Well, fun fact, I actually was born and raised in LA. So
Really?
yeah, so it was quite the change. So 10 years old, we moved to Rochester, Minnesota. It was quite the change in scenery.
Yeah, I know. LA is quite the change in scenery now. You wouldn't recognize it. You wouldn't. A lot going on there, though, but hopefully they're going to be able to turn that around. Talking about turning around, you are an amazing woman. You have a Facebook live show, and it is called The Great Escape Show. And then also Light On Again Coaching. You are a coach. Now, when I looked at your profile, I saw something pretty interesting. I saw that you really have, some guests. You do your show like about once a week.
Mhm.
And within all of that, you encompass a variety of different artists, be it work or, tax advising. I heard a little bit of that. And I think that that's really important for us to kind of touch on, because when you're an interviewer, you are an influencer. You are a force to be reckoned with. You are one that people are looking to for communication. So how did you get started in all of this, Amy?
Oh, that's a great question. And I will be honest, I got started because I started my business in the midst of the pandemic. So, June of last year, I started the business, and and it's around helping people to escape soul crushing jobs and then doing careers they love. And one pathway is to start your own business. And so the tagline to the Great Escape Show is from soul crushing job to rock star entrepreneur. And really, I started it because I wanted to learn from people who have been there and done it. And I wanted to share their hero's journey, if you will, with the audience. And I have discovered that if you haven't been in a soul crushing job at some point in your life, you've probably always been an entrepreneur.
Right.
It's very, very common experience, and I run across people all the time that say, "Oh my gosh, I could have used you 10 years ago or a few years ago." I think it's just universal that we just have that one soul crushing job. And so, how do we escape that? And so, I was just curious, almost put on this like researcher hat, if you will, for these interviews. I wanted to learn what people did to escape, and it's just fascinating to
It's
me.
fascinating. And a
Stories.
lot of people have to have, if you want to be a millionaire, that's different. You have to have multiple revenue streams. So how do you vet your guests? What process do you go through to find people that you feel qualified, number one, to be on your show, and really that you're going to put your neck out on the line to promote?
Hmm. And I have found them through mastermind groups that I'm associated with. So I've gotten to know them a little bit, know, like, and trust them through the mastermind. Also through networking. I have several people on there I've just met through different networking venues, or they've been a referral. Someone else said, "Hey, I think this person will be a great guest." And then I have a brief conversation with them, make sure they're a good fit. And I always like them to go and watch a little bit of the videos I've already done to almost kind of self-qualify. It's like, yes, this is something I want to do. I am a good fit for this show. So I get guests from several different angles.
Right. Well, that's good because again, it's a lot of work, and people, don't realize that it's a lot of work for us.
Hmm.
We vet the
It,
guests, we promote you, we market, we tell the world how wonderful you are, we help you cross sell your book. There's a lot involved in that. And then too, your credibility, when people are saying, hey, I had a great experience with this person, you go, oh, well, I heard that on Amy Charland's show,
mhm.
so it's a lot of responsibility to be a person in the media, and that's what you are now. What was your soul crushing job?
Yes. So back and this is back in the early, gosh, yeah, 2000 era, right before 9/11. So about 20 years ago, I didn't know it at that time. I didn't even know what the term burnt out meant. I just knew I was miserable. I was 400 pounds. My blood pressure was through the roof.
Oh,
I
come on. I can't even imagine you at 400 pounds. 400
Yeah,
pounds.
400 pounds, because at that point, that's how I knew to calm the stress. I didn't even have a word for it. I don't even know if I called it stress back then. I mean, this is 20 years ago before the terms stressed out and burnt out really became part of our vernacular. It was just, I knew I was unhappy and miserable, and my health was failing. I was fearful I wasn't going to make it to be 40 years old. I was $50,000 in debt and that's not student loan debt. That was just personal debt. And and then the job, I was working so hard, but I was so incredibly unhappy. Now, let me say, I was working in career development at that time. I worked my way up to the director of career development, and I absolutely loved working with students, but it was the environment that was soul crushing and that created a lot of that stress for me. And once again, and here's another term that is more from the 21st century now, is resiliency. I didn't have that resiliency. If you threw that term at me, I would go, what are you talking about? But those are terms now that are much more common. So that was my soul crushing experience. And then after 9/11, about a year after, I was laid off. And it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me because of that situation. And it woke me up. And I realized I had to do something different. And that's when I discovered coaching. And now I've been in the coaching field, working in a corporate setting for 15 years now. I spent a little time exploring some different areas in coaching, but then for the past 15, I've been a solid uh, full-time employee for a health organization that offers health and wellness coaching. So that's the type of
Well, now
coaching I've
let me
been
ask
doing.
let me ask you a question. I want to go a little deep. I love to do that.
Yeah, yeah,
At 400 pounds, I'm sure there was a whole lot of emotional stuff that was going on. You know,
yeah.
and then when you lost the weight and you looked at yourself in the mirror, you lost two or three people. Actually,
Hmm.
was there a bit of a shock there? Was there a bit of an adjustment that you had to make?
Oh, that's an excellent question. And April, I would say for me, because this wasn't the first time I had gotten up to a very high weight. I think I had gotten up to 300 pounds and maybe in my early 20s, and had lost it and actually gotten down to 130 pounds because I wasn't eating anything. And so I did that during my master's degree. And so then I spiked back up because I never learned how to really eat healthfully, even though I was 130 pounds at one point, never learned how to eat healthfully. And so when the stress came, that weight went back up. So I went from about 300 down to 130, back up to 400. And so when I got to that 400, point, I was like, I can't do this dieting. This dieting has just created I was a binge eater. And that was even when I was thin, I was binge eating. I just had a different way of managing it so I wasn't gaining the weight. But I was a binge eater, and I thought, I can't be a binge eater anymore. I got to work on this. So it's a very slow process. And I would say it because it was so slow, I didn't have this immediate response of, oh my goodness, I look so different. It was so gradual and slow. I kind of along the way kind of stepped into the new look that I had, if that makes sense.
It does, but there's a lot of outside noise and there's a lot of outside influences when you make a drastic change like that.
Hmm.
How people receive you, how they perceive you, do they take you seriously? Do they, all of that. So that's a lot of adjustment. And then also being in a job that's not fulfilling you
Hmm.
spiritually at that point. So there was a lot that you had to overcome. And I applaud you because you look absolutely magnificent now. Have
Oh,
you
well, thank
found
you.
your place of comfort? Have you leveled out?
I'm still working on it. I'll be honest. I am not perfect. I still want to lose some weight. Like I said, it's been a very slow journey because I had so much to work on. I had to work on my physical health. I had to work on my emotional health. I had to work on my spiritual health. I mean, you don't get to 400 pounds just because you're overeating. You
Right.
get to 400 pounds because there are lots of things that are not going right in your life.
So now
And
things are
yeah,
going right, and you're able to coach others through this process because you've been there. What is your
yeah.
ideal client, Amy?
Yeah, so my ideal client is someone who really feels stuck, even trapped in a job where they feel like it's a dead end, but they're just afraid to leave because of the paycheck. They probably are feeling highly stressed and burnt out. It could be because they're feeling so bored because they're underemployed, or perhaps it's just not the right type of job for them. Or maybe they've found out that, for instance, like accounting isn't really what lights them up. Maybe it's something else. Maybe there's a dream there that they've always wanted to pursue as a career, but they've just kept pushing it down, and now it's impacting their health, it's impacting their life, it's impacting their relationship. So it's really someone who's so incredibly unhappy where they're at in their job and their career, that's starting to have this very negative impact on their life.
It is their life, their relationships, their children, and a lot of that is, intergenerational, trauma that they've experienced. Okay, so what would be a few takeaways that you would give to a person that's in that space? Where do they begin?
Yes. So, where and this is going to sound so easy, but it's incredibly hard. It's to just step away and take a breath for a moment. Because when we are in that situation, we're going, going, going. And we are absolutely terrified. I'm speaking from personal experience here and others I've worked with. We are terrified to take that step back because when we do, we know what we're going to see. And it's not going to be pretty. And when we take that step back and we take that pause, we take that breath and we see the reality, and then we have to make a choice. We have to make a choice to continue on that path and have the consequences of that path, or we need to make a change. And change is hard. We all know that change is so incredibly hard. And when you're in that place where you can't see the opportunity that's available to you, change is even harder because you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. It just seems so incredibly overwhelming. So yes, it's just stepping back.
Well, you better hope that the light at the end of the
Yeah.
tunnel is not a train
Yes, yes.
because it will smack you down. And so many people are in that situation right now because of the pandemic, because of COVID-19. They're still looking at people with a side eye.
Mhm,
I went to the post office. There was like 10 people in line. I was like, I'll come back later.
mhm,
And now people are socially isolating themselves. There is the woman that was, going to work with the briefcase and the red bottom shoes. Now she's at home in sweatpants and a bun, telling her kids to be quiet, trying to homeschool at the same time. So there's a lot of stressors that are going on.
Hmm.
Again, and eating. That was one of the things that I picked up because when I walk past the kitchen, there's always something there to pick up. So I'm really trying to get people more in tune with their feelings and to adjust their mindset. Do you do any work with neurolinguistic programming, talking to yourself or changing your mindset to get you in gear for this transformation?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it all, and when we look at just the neuroscience of the brain, absolutely. I've been working for 15 years as a coach, helping people to literally change their brain, because when we start to make change, it changes the structure of our brain. It creates new neural pathways. And so that's why it's so important to take those small steps, because I think we all can relate to trying to make a big change, like a diet. We go on a diet, try to make a big change, and then what happens? We may be able to stick with it for a day, a week, a month, but then we go right back to that old pattern, because we haven't taken those small steps and been consistent enough to literally change that structure of our brain. And so, yes, the motivation comes into that, mindset comes into that, habits come into that. So it definitely all works together. And we often think and blame ourselves for the behaviors that we're doing, but we have trained ourselves to do those behaviors. And so we need to untrain ourselves. And that's where we want to really start changing those habits.
Right. And disciplining and talking bad about ourselves. We have to love us
Mhm.
ourselves right where we are. What is the role of a coach?
Yeah, so a coach is really someone who is there to help you to see those blind spots, to see those blocks. It is someone that is there to support you in that change process, to point the way, to show you how to go from where you are to where you want to be, and providing that safety net, and providing you the resources. And this could be resources such as individuals. It could be resources of just building tools for your toolbox and how you think about things or how you do things. And so a coach is really there to help you to make those changes that you want to make. And I know through the coaching industry, a lot of folks are using that term coach. But I consider myself a professional coach. I have the certificates to show that I do have the skill set as a coach. And so what I'm saying here is from a coach, really a professional coach perspective. And if you come across someone that says, oh, I tell people what to do or solve their problem for them, that's probably someone that's more of a consultant, because a coach is really a partner in the change process, and a coach sees the person that they're working with as an expert on their own life.
Exactly.
And it's really more of that partnership.
And
I
I
don't tell
agree with you on
people
that
what to do.
because
Yep.
the word coach is oversaturated. A lot
Mhm.
of times, I shouldn't say a lot of times, a good percentage of the times, it is that disgruntled employee that has been, you know, in accounting or in HR, and now they feel that they're a subject matter expert. So I'm going to quit this job and I'm going to become a coach. But if they haven't settled and resolved their own issues, how in the world can someone entrust them, give them $3,000, $4,000? And when I coach people, because I only take 5 clients a year and I only coach for 4 hours, I mean 5 hours. I don't do a lot of that because I need a person that's already invested. And I want to be your cheerleader. I want to be your sounding board. I don't want to change you. I want to enhance you. I want to color in the white spots. I want to be able to stand back and look at what might be missing and offer you suggestions. Ultimately, I'm going to turn the wheel to the car back over to you. So you have to know how to drive it. A coach is there just like a GPS, is to give you some direction.
Mhm.
And coaching can be very expensive now. I've talked to one person that has been with one coach for about 4 years. To me, I would think that I would want my client to outgrow me and maybe invest in someone else's, something else that they see, master another skill? What's your position on that?
Oh, absolutely. I tell my clients this all the time. My job is to support you in making the changes you need to make so you no longer need me. That is my job.
Right.
And my job is not to keep you dependent on me and needing me. I want to support you on getting the tools and the success that you desire so that you can do it on your own. Yes. And like you said, go on to the next coach, because I think we always need a coach for something in our life, because when we fix one thing in our life, what happens? Something else shows up and may need some
You get an oil
assistance with
change and
that.
then you need to get new tires.
Mm,
But that's what happens on the road to life. So you are a writer. Tell us some of the amazing, fun, incredible things that you have, that you do and you've done during your time out in COVID.
Yes. So for the writing a piece, I am currently working on a chapter for like a compilation book that'll be coming out later this year. So I'm looking forward to that. And I just like to do some writing just on little blogs and things like that, and on my Facebook page as well. I just love the writing process, and I hope to eventually write a couple books down the road, my own books.
But what would be your subject matter? You say you like to write. Do you like to write fantasy? Do you like to write autobiographical? Do you like to write, fiction? What sparks your interest when you pick up the pen?
Oh, yes. You know what I love to do is I love to research something
Mm.
and get really deep into it and learn all the nuances of it, and then come out of it and go, okay, now how can I share this in a very tangible way with others so that they can take that information and run with it? And so it's more fitting in the probably personal development realm, or or nonfiction realm.
Nonfiction, yeah.
Yeah.
Growth and personal development, you can never get enough of. I'm a
Mm.
fan of autobiographies. I like to hear people's story. I'm really into human interest stories. What made this person the way that they are? What is their secret sauce? What is their recipe for success? And everybody has a story. It's just being able to help them, pull back the layers of that onion and uncover really what that is. And a lot of times there's so much self-evaluation that goes on during that process, and self-love, and recovery, from some things that have happened in our life. A lot of people have had a lot of childhood trauma and tragedies, and they get to be 40 years old and they repeat those same cycles because they've never healed.
Hmm.
They've never
Yeah,
healed.
so
So,
true.
do you have a cat? Do you have a dog? Do you knit? What else do you do?
Yes, I do have a cat, and usually he is somewhere around, but I think he's finally sleeping and now. Yeah, his name is Shakespeare.
Oh, my
And
favorite poet.
yes, yes, and he is a rescue cat. And
Beautiful.
so yeah, he's just a beautiful, beautiful
We
boy.
almost rescued one the other day. Me and my daughter was going for a walk, and this beautiful black and brown cat just came up to her. Cats don't usually come up to you. Dogs maybe more so, and just curled up around her arm. Around her legs. And we said, "Well, Mr. Magnificent is not a fan of cats. We don't think that we can take you home." Followed us for a couple blocks. So there must have been a good spirit there. Felt a good energy, the energy that I feel from you, Amy. I think that what you're doing is incredible. I love to see you. You are so vibrant. I see the picture behind you, but it's more of that. It's more of an aura that's radiating from you. You get excited about your guests. You're right in their face. You question them. You're doing an amazing job.
Oh,
And I'm
well, thank
sure that you're doing a great job with your coaching as well. Tell my brains how to get in contact with you so they can work with you and also follow you on Facebook.
Absolutely. So on Facebook, you can find me at Coach Amy Charland, or if you search for Lights on Again Coaching, you can also find my Facebook page that way. And and there you'll be able to see all those interviews I'm doing. And if anyone is interested in doing a free consultation with me, they can go to escapecorporatehell.com and sign up for a free 30-minute session valued at $147. And what we'll do is during that 30-minute session, we're going to figure out where you really want to go, what's that one big obstacle getting in your way, and then we're going to create an action plan so you can step into your brilliance and start doing work that lights you up.
Well, we want to glow. Okay. We
Yeah.
want to radiate. And thank you so much for being here on The Edge, the place where the conversation is pointed and the guests are sharp and the responses are never dull. Brains, go back and check out other edgy conversations. We are all over the planet. We are bringing you the best and the brightest, especially now because there are options. There are alternatives, but it is always a choice. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely, April.
Bye, Brains.